Welcome to this brief Bible dive with Beautiful Savior Lutheran Church in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and with me, Pastor Nick. We're continuing a series of brief Bible dives where we're summarizing books of the Bible so that you can get a quick understanding of their message and why they matter thousands of years later. And today we're talking about the second letter of John. Now, the first letter of John we often hear at weddings. God is love, God is love, God is love. But this is the second. There's John, first, second, and third John. This is the second letter. And part of what this letter is really grasping at is how it really stretches the imagination that God chose not to live far away, to be distant from us, but that God got the divine hands dirty in this world by becoming a human being in the person of Jesus Christ. And it also stretches the imagination so much that it's hard for some people to believe that this is even possible. The author of 2 John was contending with people who had the same struggle, but were being adamant about trying to convince people there's no way God could walk in the flesh. When this letter was written, people were traveling to Christian congregations, mostly around the Mediterranean at that point, and joining them during their worship times and their assemblies and people's houses, and trying to convince them that Jesus was never really human, that Jesus simply was God appearing as if there was humanity there. And so, and they did this because they didn't believe that God could actually come into physical contact with creation, that the divine and the creator and the created could not touch one another. And this is why the author commanded, not asked, not suggested, commanded the congregation not to welcome anyone who brought this false teaching. Now, that's a pretty harsh commandment, especially in a world where hospitality was a matter of life and death, and also because as Christians we are to welcome the stranger. But apparently these teachers had done some really considerable damage to other congregations, and the author of 2 John didn't want it to keep happening. And it did real damage to people when taught, that Jesus was simply God appearing as a human being, rather than Jesus being God walking in human flesh. And let's take a step back and ask, why does this even matter in the first place? Well, does it really matter if Jesus was God in the flesh or God appearing to be human? Yes, it absolutely matters. God chose to come to us in the person of Jesus, or, as we say, Jesus is God in the flesh, and we hear some of the words in John, the gospel, not the letters now, but the gospel according to John, chapter 1, verse 14. It says, "And the Word," that means Jesus, "and the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth." And in order to do our best explaining what this actually means, we humans have come up with one of these really big fancy words called incarnation. Incarnation literally means in the flesh. The word carne means meat or flesh in many languages other than English, which I'm speaking now, of course, and it's given birth to some other words that we often use, but rarely realize are connected. For example, if a carnivore is a plant or animal that consumes animals, or in other words, consumes flesh. A dogs would be an example of an animal, but then a Venus flytrap would be an example of a plant that consumes flesh. Carne, carnivore. Actually, a carnation is a flower that was originally found only in a Caucasian flesh color, but now, of course, has many other colors. But so it got the name carnation. The carnival or carnival, that last celebration before Lent, comes from the old Italian words carnem levare, which means to remove meat. The carnival, also known as Mardi Gras and ending on Fat Tuesday, happens right before Ash Wednesday, a season during which people traditionally would give up meat up until Easter. Let's say you're going to a Mexican restaurant. You might decide to order chili con carne. Well, that means chili with meat. So that's where the carne is, incarnation, in the flesh. Jesus is God in the flesh. And here's the thing, this is very good news for us. It's good news so much that the author of 2nd John, the second letter of John, didn't want us to lose this importance due to the fact that because of people teaching something wrong about Jesus. It's good news because even though Jesus never sinned, he certainly experienced the full of human life and the temptations even that lead to sin. And it means Jesus can identify with us in the flesh. That's why we have that verse in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15, and it says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who in every respect has been tested as we are, yet without sin." The incarnation is good news because it means that God gets it. God gets it. God understands what you are going through right now. The incarnation means that God has walked in your shoes. God has walked in your shoes, and God gets whatever is on your plate at the moment. So does it matter that Jesus came in the flesh and that he's not just an illusion of God appearing to be human? Yes, it absolutely matters. It's a matter of life and death. Matters so much that the author of 2nd John was adamant in making this point and protecting the people in those congregations from those who taught the complete opposite. So that's the story of the second letter of John in a nutshell. To learn more about our congregation, our website is bslcmi.org. We'd love for you to share this video, like it, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, go out and love God and love your neighbors.